Hi, it's Maria, and I'm doing another Forgiveness to Love video, and I'm using a new photo app, and so please bear with me. I don't really know where it is I'm supposed to look, and um, I don't know how much of this you're seeing, whether you're seeing the entire room or whether you're seeing me. But in any event, the title of um, of this video, which I'm very excited to share with you, is called The Barometer of Our Awakening. And it's quite different from my past videos, and it really stands out with a special message. So I'm really happy to connect with you tonight, and I truly hope that you enjoy this. I'll keep it short, but it'll be packed full with information. You know, we've been going through a very emotional time, and some of us have gotten many revelations and epiphanies and new information over the last week or so. And some of the things that I have experienced, I look forward to sharing with you over the next couple of days. And I think that there are many people out there who have really had quite an awakening over the past couple of days, if not longer. First, I just wanted to mention that I published a revised video that I really, really love, and it's titled Our Soul Purpose. And I made it while I was staying in a hotel in Carlsbad where I was being stalked and hunted. And I told myself I knew that they didn't want me making videos, and I just told myself that I was going to make it anyway. And so I wanted you to see it, and it's a very special video because to me it was representative of the strength that I needed in order to even get through some very terrifying moments. And in that hotel, I had been poisoned and I had experienced some really horrific things. And so when I saw that video, I was shocked that I was able to even pull that off, given my emotional state of extreme anxiety. So in any event, I really hope you'll tune in and watch that. I think you can find it on YouTube and certainly on my Facebook. I don't have a page, it's just that Facebook account, but all my videos are on public for the public to view. It should be on my mariahaiti.com website tomorrow or the next day. I'll get around to it. And so I would really love you to see that. It does explain about our soul purpose, which I think is very, it's very timely right now because so many of us are doing everything we can in order uh, to manifest whatever it is we need in order to fulfill our soul purpose. And so I certainly realized that for over 25 years of being sued, when all of it was pretty much a sham, a scam, a bunch of BS, and it was all to make me squirm and give in and give up, that actually was a huge part of my soul purpose. And so when you think about your own soul purpose, may you take into account the life you've been living and recurring karmic cycles and things like that, and things that although you might try to suppress them, they keep bubbling up, and you know that you can't ignore it anymore. And that very well could be part of your soul purpose. And so those aren't things to ignore, but rather they're here to awaken us to our gifts that we then can share with others. But as for today's video, the Barometer of Our Awakening, you know, in each of the last 50 or so videos of Forgiveness to Love, I shared many of the crimes that I saw and how they were really designed to destroy me. And it wasn't just one or two people. I mean, I did focus obviously on the ex. It was the triangle, the ex, the sibling, and the son. And they had all been working together for many years, if not decades. And I was just the oblivious one. But really, it was a full-blown conspiracy, and I don't think I ever wanted to acknowledge that before. But it was because there was so much money that hundreds, if not thousands, were paid to sabotage, so that there were bribes and payoffs, and so that that money would keep rolling. And it was in order for the orchestrators of the saga and of the debacle, in order for them to succeed, they had to lure in accomplices. They had to lure in flying monkeys. They had to lure in others. And so it was just one big conspiracy. I mean, these were people that had nothing to do with me. They didn't know me. If I saw them on the street, they might not know me. I'm sure they've studied my photos and my videos and have heard all these ridiculous things about me. Otherwise, they wouldn't possibly have engaged in such criminal activity. But these were people who worked in the private sector. These are people that actually worked in the business community. These are people that worked in the legal system. And whether they were managers of electronic stores, or whether they were bankers, or whether they were physicians, or whether they were attorneys, or I don't know what else is there, whether they were, clerks, or U.S. postal employees, or secretaries, or T-Mobile, Verizon, and what's the other one? AT&T. Whether they worked for the cell phone companies, whether they worked for Spectrum, for the internet companies, whether they were airline pilots. I mean, you just don't know. All sorts of people working together, and kind of, it was almost like a, I don't know if it's a coven or a cult or whatever, but it was almost like a plot and a plan to hoot and holler at another's demise. And when you really think about it, I had mentioned in one of my videos about the book Lord of the Flies, which was an all-time favorite of mine when I was growing up. And it was really, you had these boys on a deserted island with no rules, no regulations, no adults, and they ended up acting like savages. They were all vying for control, vying for power. And eventually, once they were rescued, they eventually pretty much broke down and saw the error of their ways. And it was shocking to them that they could be so savage like, so primitive. And so when we think of the things that many of us have been going through, and when other people are interested in our demise, and yet they don't even know us. And, they might really like us if they did know us, because we're pretty cool people, actually. Yet these people have developed this hatred for us, this anger, because if it's like us or like our money, what are they going to do? Many of them have chosen to just palms out, okay, pay me. I did this to her, I screwed up her this. I flattened the tires on her car. I went into her house and I sprayed some Roundup on her food. I did, all these crazy things. Anyway, it is so disgusting. And yet that's when divine justice comes into play. And that cash is actually energetically tainted and brings along with it loads of karma. And that's what most people don't understand. And people say, oh, I don't really believe in karma because that's kind of cause and effect. And yet, that is the physical world. That is Newtonian physics. That is, the karmic boomerang. You do something and the energy comes right back to you. But if you even take that further and you think about the infinite intelligence, there's no cheating the universe. There's no cheating the creation, the creator who created everything, right? The creator and the created, that sees all, that knows all, that is energetically aligned with all. And so you have these people that we're not to feel sorry for them when their lives fall apart, because their goal was really to to trigger us, and in my case, to push my mom and dad and me over the edge. And it was due to that I knew that I had to be strong, if not for me, certainly for my parents who didn't survive all the attacks, and for my children. But there are crimes that I experienced and witnessed and was made aware of. And it's truly just obscene and simply inexcusable, and reminiscent of a group of totally unconscious human beings, really. And the tragedy is that not only do we know better, but that many find these crimes absolutely appalling, and yet they seem to be kind of sucked into this vortex known as like the bowels of humanity, and to be engulfed in the darkness. And that's a choice that they made. Alternatively, they could have allowed themselves to be elevated to a higher level of consciousness. And yet, what was holding them back? What was keeping them down? Because human behavior is really a barometer of the collective consciousness. And that having been said, how do we elevate ourselves to get beyond the collective? And so we have to think about our peers and our families and our neighbors and our friends. How do we elevate the whole of humanity for its ultimate awakening? And that's the goal. That's what we're all here to participate in some shape and form. And so that would be so fantastic if we could actually accomplish that in this lifetime. And when we talk about the crimes, oh gosh, we don't want to be Debbie Downer. We don't want to go into that negative space, and yet we aren't going to close our eyes anymore, right? We are taking responsibility. We are holding ourselves accountable, and we are doing everything we can for the people we know and the people we care about that have been, or perhaps are still going through some of these challenges that we have experienced. And there's no quick fix, actually. There's no Band-Aid for it. There's only one way out. And remember, Kevin Costner was in that movie. Excuse me. I have the hiccups. Kevin Costner was telling us that there is no way out. And yet, there really is a way out. And we know, and we have it at hand. It's whether or not we're going to leap forward. And so here we are, let's see, on this blue-green little cosmic ball in the ethers, right? And along with 7 billion others that call Earth our home, right? And so there are differences among us. Yes, 7 billion. 7 billion. They don't look alike, right? And so there are differences among us. And so although we are more similar than we at first glance might appear, and we have more similarities than we have differences, for sure. And most of us desire a life of joy. If you ask if you could have anything, what would you want? And of course, some people would say, oh, money and this and a big house and a Ferrari and this and that and that. But yet, when you think about really what would those things bring to them, which is joy. It would bring happiness. It would bring feelings of abundance. It would bring freedom to be able to go and do whatever it is you want to do rather than feel like you're strapped for cash. And so when we have all that, then we can spend much of our lifetime then tapping into our gifts and tapping into our soul purpose. Because after all, really, that's the reason for our being here. That's the reason for our incarnation. And so in order to find our path and our purpose, when we are gravitationally tethered, right, to Gaia, to planet Earth, we have to surrender. And when we surrender, and we just basically just give up. But it's not in a pitiful or pathetic way of, oh, I give up, I can't do anything else. It's that I'm going to go with the flow, and I'm going to allow uh, my intention and my energy in order to allow my dreams and desires to be fulfilled. And so when we surrender, we go within. And when we're within, when we are inside, when we see ourselves not as physical beings, but as parts of the whole, then we find our stability. And it's not outside in the world of chaos and craziness, right? But it's inside, in the inside world of oneness. And so, whether we're at different stages. I mean, we are at different stages. Some of us are kind of in our still robotic stage, right? Some of us are slightly. There's a little no see 'em. I didn't see 'em. Um, some of us are in relatively anesthetized, and some of us are just kind of sleepyheads. And yet we must awaken. And when we awaken, we feel the energy, and we can become present with it, right? And we can find our part within the whole. And it's kind of that slice in the pie where we find wholeness in that slice. And we find the entire pie in that slice, right? And then we can also find that slice within the pie. So it's almost as if, what did they talk about? The drop of the ocean is the ocean, and the wave is also the ocean, because the wave is part of the ocean, and the ocean has the wave, is in the wave. And so we're all part of it, and it's part of us, as is everything else that is accessible to every single one of us. But in order to get there, we have to let go of ego. And that's a really difficult thing to do, because getting rid of ego is going beyond the ego, and it's going beyond our identity, and it's going beyond really the material world, and it's going beyond the physical world into a world of nothingness, where we don't care about what we have or where we're going or what we're doing. We are just surrendering to it, to us. And so the same is true for forgiveness, because forgiveness is not a conscious act. Although we might think so. We might think, oh, yes, well, the Queen or the Pope or God Almighty says, I forgive you. And yet, forgiveness is not a conscious act. It's the result of unbridled emotion that creates a shift in consciousness. And when we have that shift in consciousness, then we see that we don't forgive any particular type of betrayal or any particular behavior, because being that specific would really just kind of cloud the very nature of opening our heart to saying, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to forgive. I'm ready to surrender. I'm ready to see the oneness in all. I'm ready to open my heart to love. I'm ready to, I'm here. And I want to make the most of these special moments that I have while being blessed on this beautiful planet of ours. And so when we can kind of cross the bridge and get to that side, we see that we aren't a victim. There are no victims, right? Because everything in the physical is basically an illusion. And the illusion is part of everything else in the three-dimensional world, right? There is nothing that can never touch us in ways that we don't allow, because we are in charge of our lives, whether we use rational thought, whether we are conscious of our choices, whether we understand that every choice we make has consequences and that we're not being punished by it, but in fact, energetically, we experience the what we send out, we truly receive. And so when we view our plane of reality in that way, we realize that even the consequences that we experience are for our highest good, and they all play out for our highest good. And so we are here for the expansion of our soul, and we learn through our choices, and that holds true for the lack of victimization, if we can get to that point in time, but it also holds true for the perpetrators, because it's not as if the perpetrators then just walk away free and they can just keep committing these heinous acts of depravity and pain, and create pain and chaos for others. No, they've made a choice to behave in that way, and then they will have the consequences for their behavior. But really, we don't create those consequences for them. They create them themselves, and yet they unknowingly do that. And so that's the big surprise. That's their aha moment. And that's why so many of them are incarcerated, and then they sit there and they have all this time on their hands. And some of them do become spiritual because they start reading and they realize that no one else did it to them. It wasn't their abusive drunk father who created all this pain for them. I mean, yeah, we have those experiences. We all have people in our lives who trigger us, who abuse us, who take advantage of us, who detest us, who are jealous and envious and obsessed with us. I mean, how many stalkers have I had? Oh my God. And now I hear, oh, this is the latest, I think I said this, but now I hear that I was told that my sibling actually has photoshopped pictures of me and has put it on like these gross dating sites, and she gets paid or something if she says we're going to hook up or something, and then she ghosts them, and then when they've spent all this money but no one shows up, all of a sudden then they become enraged, and then they become other stalkers, and that is just so sick. I mean, to actually set someone up and do that to them is that's beyond malignant and psychopathic and everything else. And again, I'm not saying that this really happened, but I am saying that this is what I've told. This is what I'm told. Um, yeah, she does hopefully, and she does hope that some of these um, deranged individuals and enraged individuals then become very angry. And so anyway, so what we were saying is that yeah, people do these horrible things, and yet we really can't focus on them because that's beyond our control. All we can do is report those issues and know that um, the divine sees everything, right? And know that there are consequences to everything we do, whether we steal an eraser or whether we scratch somebody's car and then don't tell them that we backed into it, or whatever little thing we do or whatever big thing we do, there are consequences, and people don't like that. And so some people actually understandably have been upset, thinking, hey, you know what, I've been really good while others are drinking and having sex and cheating, with the one I want to be with. And hey, that's not fair. So I might as well go ahead and go wild too. But remember, forgiveness has nothing to do with anyone else's behavior. Forgiveness is for us. And so we can't control what anyone else does. We can't control we can't even control our dogs, our pets. especially our cats, which I'm now learning a lot about cats, which I didn't know much about them, but they are very independent beings and animals, beings, and oh, they are just miraculous. I just love them. They are so self-confident, and they take care of their needs, and it's a beautiful thing to watch that empowerment. Um, they do, they probably look. You've seen those memes or memes on Facebook or whatever, where they show a kitty that looks in the mirror, and all of a sudden, what do they see? They see this huge lion, and that's kind of how it is when I look at the cats here. It's they really know who they are in a very beautiful way, and so let's see, what can I tell you now? um, we don't want chaos and drama in our lives, right? And some people do, and they are very comfortable in that. But for us, forgiveness, we forgive, and forgiveness is for us, right? And although we can be overrun by memories, and and then it's difficult to forgive because we are then living in the past, and so those memories take us back to, they take us away from the present moment, right? And they take us back into a space of insanity, right? Where we allowed someone else's behavior to haunt us and to steal our joy. And that joy is accessible to to in our every moment. That joy is present in our every moment. And so the past and the future are truly irrelevant to our life right here, right now. The hurts of the past, as well as the dreams of the future, you know, create a buildup of energy within us, right? That has to be released. And so we have to release that before we can fully appreciate um, the present moment. And so the power of now, I'm sure you've all read that. And so we are here now, and we don't allow other people or other things to trigger us, right? We did in the past, because to react or behave like we did seems like, oh, such a victory, and yet it's not. What we need to do is take our power and to gain our stability and to ground ourselves. And when we do that, then we can overcome ego and its limiting dispositions, right? And ego is a very difficult thing to get rid of, right? And we do need some ego, and yet we really need to in order to negotiate our way in this throughout this world. And yet actually we can fall in love with the present moment as the individual, and then we aren't even in the equation. So with practice, we're able to balance our inner and outer worlds to the point where our frequency can be so high that obstacles in the material world simply cannot touch the energy we're in. And so when we embody forgiveness and gratitude and love that imbues wholeness into our every thought, and then there's no room to be preoccupied with the material world and who's doing this and who's doing that. And I never cease to be amazed at how many people don't even take care of themselves because they're just so busy watching everybody else, watching what everybody else is doing. And you're thinking, oh my gosh, like, why do they care? Don't they have enough going on in their lives? And yet they're just so obsessed. It's almost like people sitting in front of the TV in years past watching soap operas. I don't even know if they have soap operas anymore on the TV with, the gazillion channels that are on there anyway. I can barely turn on the TV. There's so many different remote controls. It's probably better. I should just do my writing. But anyway, everything we go through really is a tailor-made blessing for us. And it's really for our ultimate alignment with Source, with our God, with our Creator. And there are no exceptions to that rule. And so it's almost as if we can think about our time here on planet Earth as like boot camp. And I've heard horror stories about boot camp. But again, I've heard horror stories about planet Earth as well. So the challenges here are real. And the good news is that we each have been given the tools we need in order to overcome those challenges and to negotiate our way through them. And so when we stay on our right path, then we can't help but watch the blessings roll on in. And so we can blast through any negativity that, what is it, enemies, frenemies, crazies, adversaries, and others throw our way, whether they're obsessed with us or whether they just try to sabotage us every now and then. In any event, it's not about them. They're on their own journey as we're on our own journey. And our own journey on planet Earth is about us. It's not about anybody else. It's not about what someone did to us, but it is about taking those experiences, taking those challenges that they presented to us and overcoming them, and then figuring out what's the lesson, what was the blessing, what did I learn, how much did I grow, and how much better am I for having gone through that. And so we are here to awaken, and we're here to awaken and find our way back home. And home is back to God, back to our Creator, back to source energy, back to the infinite intelligence of all, back to the infinite. And so we become better today than we were yesterday, and we will be better tomorrow than we are today. And so that's a beautiful thing. And it's also wonderful to begin and end our day thinking, well, what am I going to do today? And how am I going to be better than yesterday? And then at the end of the day, to kind of assess our behavior, assess the things that were meaningful to us during the day, and see if we did the best we could, or if we need to tweak it. And most of the time, we see little areas that could stand some improvement, shall we say. And so when we learn to overcome those challenges, then we can live the life of our dreams. And so anyway, I hope you enjoyed this message. And again, I do apologize if my eyes are shifting. I don't know where to look here. But anyway, I do hope you enjoyed this message. And it's key to understanding our life here. And I'm going to be sharing some more groundbreaking info this week. So please stay tuned. And I wish you much love in your awakening. And I hope to see you soon. And remember, as always, I love you. Good night.